What's going on, everybody? It is Overreaction Time once again. I am your host, Simon Samano, and we're back after a couple of weeks off. Your boy was on vacation in Hawaii. Now I'm back from the Aloha Spirit, right back into the fight game, into ORT mode, and look who we got with us this week from our first episode back. It is none other than Danny Segura down to 305. Danny, what is good, my man? How are you?
Good, man. Everything's good and excited to talk to you and welcome you back into ORT.
Yeah, dude, we've got a lot to talk about. Some recent news, some stuff that's happened while I've been away, a pay-per-view coming up this week. So you ready to get this thing going?
Let's do it.
All right, Kamikaze, you know what time it is. Hit it.
I mean, guys, what are you fucking? Is this tonight's stupid question night? Are you guys that fucking stupid? You can't be that fucking stupid. Who gives a shit? One of the dumbest things I've ever read in my life. Fucking common sense. Everybody knows that.
All right, Danny, here we go. Let's get started. We're going to talk about what might be the biggest news of the year dropping on Monday, and that's the fact that the UFC has reached a new broadcast rights deal. It is not with Netflix, as we all thought it was going to be. It ends up being with Paramount. That's a UFC deal with Paramount, where the details here that you got to know, $7.7 billion over the next 7 years. The Paramount is going to get 13 annual pay-per-view events plus 30 additional fight night events that will stream on Paramount Plus. Now, the thing about that, Danny, is that the pay-per-view model is over, so I don't know why the press release is mentioning them as annual pay-per-view events, but let's get by that real quick. Dana White said in an interview with CBS Sports that there will be 4 quote-unquote big events broadcast live on CBS. Those are the key points of the deal right there, Danny. And, dude, I watched Dana White's first interview with CBS. I've looked over what the news is here. And all I can say to you, Danny, is this. The UFC Paramount deal sounds great now, but it'll gradually get worse over time.
I don't think that's worse for who? Hold on. Specify here.
It's going to get worse for the fans over time. Number one, it's going to get worse for the fans over time.
Overreaction, yeah. I think that's an overreaction.
Okay. Would you like for me to break it down for you?
Huh?
Would you like for me to break it down for you?
Sure.
I'll tell you what I mean by that. The fact that there is no so it sounds great that there isn't a pay-per-view model right now. Sounds great. We don't got to pay $80 a month anymore to watch pay-per-view events. But what does that mean for the quality of the UFC product overall? I mean, what does that mean in terms of how interested fans are going to be? The UFC no longer being incentivized by pay-per-view model. What does that mean for the quality? So that's number one, how it's going to get worse over time. Number two, the number two thing, right now, Paramount Plus costs you $12.99, I think, a month. How soon before we're paying more than $20 for a Paramount Plus stream? I remember a day, Danny, when the UFC ESPN deal happened. ESPN Plus was $4.99 and it is now $12. So over time, it's going to get worse for the fans.
Yeah, I believe it's $8.99 currently for Paramount. Look, go
the low end. Well, the lowest, like it's like the lowest deal. It's like a $7.99 to $12.99, but we don't know what's going to get you the UFC product.
Gotcha. Look, even the ESPN thing, like it increased, but you're talking about like $6 more a month or whatever, like $8 more a month. I don't think that's that big of a deal considering that you're slashing the monthly $80-$90 that we're paying per pay-per-view. And this is kind of like the UFC giving up on piracy. I know Dana White had like a whole thing where, I have a van outside of this guy's house. And there was a really weird period in time where he was talking about trying to bust this guy that was illegally streaming UFC pay-per-views. I think that was all cap, by the way. And now it kind of looks, hindsight, it kind of looks like a scream of desperation of just trying to incite fear in people to not stream. But like this is them waving the white flag and saying, okay, piracy won. It's a failed war. And it's true. I mean, even the own fighters, O'Malley, there's so many that have talked about publicly on streams how they themselves don't even buy the UFC pay-per-views and stream them. We obviously do because we get to, expense that and we have to do it.
We do it the right way at MMA Junkie.
Yeah, fans. Yeah, obviously we do things right at MMA Junkie, but fans are not paying money for this. Maybe if there's UFC 300, they'll be like, "F it, we don't want to run any risk of having the stream pause or pop ups or whatever." But like all in all, people weren't really buying the pay per views, so I think this is good for the fans because now you don't have to worry about getting your computer full of malware or pop ups or falling right before the stream falling right before a knockout. This is great. I think for the fans, this is going to be good. But yes, I do believe that the product is going to get watered down. But it's been getting watered down, even with these pay-per-views already being pay-per-views. So all in all, I do think it's a win for the fans. I think that those are the only group here that wins. Dana said the fighters win, our fans win, we win. I don't know so much about the fighters, but the fans definitely win here, I feel like.
Okay, you think that, but you think the fans win because of the pay-per-view price going away?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and not only that, but the quality is going to be good. The quality is going to be good. A lot of these streams, dude, people are watching these streams and
quality of the stream. I don't know. I haven't used Paramount. I'm not a Paramount Plus subscriber right now.
Oh, I use Paramount a lot because they have a Champions League. They have Serie A. They have a lot of soccer. Very good deal. I use it all the time. Plus, they have movies, shows. I think Paramount's a great service, and I think they overall, like I like Paramount Plus way better than ESPN Plus as far as not having any issues. It's very seamless. Okay. So I think this is actually good for the MMA community.
But how confident are you, Danny, that we're actually going to get quality good events?
Oh,
Dana White already saying on his with CBS, we're going to get 4 big events. Nothing really changes in that regard. We already got 4 big events every year, right? Like we already got MSG and International Fight Week and the end of the year and what's traditionally been an April pay-per-view in Miami, right? Like we've already gotten 4 big events. What does that even mean? Like, how does this doesn't improve for the fans? If anything, there's just downside for the product to just get worse. That's my biggest fear, man. Like, and you're just gonna grow. Like, there's gonna be fatigue. You know, watching UFC. It's how many of these events are we gonna get now? We already get a lot of them where it's like we already get a lot of fight night events where we're just like whatever about them. We already get a good number of our 13 pay-per-view events that are like great main event and a fight night quality. What does that mean now for the future when there's no incentive because there's no pay-per-view to put on great events?
No, yeah. I mean, the quality of the UFC has been dropping, and that's not going away due to their practices, their promotional practices. They're not putting nearly as much effort to promote events. And what they want to do is kind of become like any other sport, right? I don't know much about American sports, so maybe you can. I know you follow football and others, but kind of like the Monday Night Football, whatever, with just every day, every certain day, there's gonna be fights, right? But like there's gonna be one Super Bowl a year, right? Or maybe one big matchup. For soccer, I can compare it to maybe like a cup final or a Champions League final or a league Clásico when you got 2 rival teams going at it. But on a week-to-week basis, all the games are like and then the big matchups is what draws the big crowds every few weeks. But for the most part, every week there's just fights. Every week there's a game. So that's what the UFC is trying to be like. So yeah, now the pressure's off because now they don't have to be like, oh, you don't have to pay for this pay-per-view. So here's this shitty card, right? There's a famous saying in Spanish that says gratis hasta un puño, free even a punch. So yeah, I think that's the case here. Pressure's off for the UFC to put on shit cards. You're not paying for them for pay-per-view, and they'll just focus on these really big 4 events a year.
Well, see, you have confidence that I don't even have confidence that, man, because anytime that we've had this sort of announcement, like if you think back to the Fox era, there was supposed to be a difference between, in the beginning, there was supposed to be a difference between the fight night events that were on FS1 and the big Fox events. Remember, it was always a big deal. We're like, oh, they're on big Fox. Isn't that what this is? We're going to be on big CBS, right? You're going to be on CBS, on national television, on network television. But I mean, is that really, I don't know how much confidence I have, dude, that the UFC, even at some point as this unfolds, because I'm telling you, it's going to gradually get worse, that those 4 events are really just going to become, I'm not going to say they're going to become whatever, but if you're telling me that I got to get a bunch of crap for 39 events, you better deliver on 4 like UFC 300 style cards for me 4 times a year then. Do you know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
we're not getting UFC 300 level cards 4 times a year, then this ends up being crap for the fans because the quality sucks consistently, and then you can't even deliver the big, huge events for me 4 times a year. That I'm not confident in that happening.
No, I think the 4 events they will deliver because at the end of the day, the UFC does hold the best fighters in the world, and all the really meaty and important and relevant MMA action goes down in the octagon. So that doesn't stop. There's still always going to be like champions. There's still always going to be very talented fighters, and those will participate on those 4 events. I'm not really worried about those. I'm really worried about is the rest. I think the pressure's off here for the UFC for the lesser pay-per-views to really stack them up, because all of a sudden they don't have to compete for your money for you to buy. They don't have to sell it to you. It's already sold. CVS bought it.
Essentially, what you're saying is that Dana White and the UFC are done promoting. They're done being promoters.
Oh, they've been done promoting.
But they've been done. We know that. If it's official now, this sort of signals the end of like, we are no longer a promotion that is promoting fighters, right? It's just our product. And good kudos to the UFC, man. They are an absolute juggernaut. I mean, $7.7 billion over 7 years. What the ESPN deal was like 500 million or 600 million or something like that. 700 million, maybe.
Yeah,
So
500
they nearly doubled or doubled it. So, from a business standpoint, we know the UFC is an absolute juggernaut. But man, from a quality standpoint, again, I don't know what that means for the sport overall. Hopefully this exposure is good. That's an increase, obviously, in subscribers, right? I think ESPN Plus like 25 million. I looked it up before. Paramount is like 75 million or 77 million subscribers. We thought it was going to be Netflix. Netflix is 300 million subscribers worldwide. Maybe that's down the line. TKO's already got that relationship. So get your money somewhere else. But we'll see if this is ultimately good for the fans. I'm not that confident, Danny. But if they give us the 4 big ones, then maybe that'll make me feel a lot better. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
All right, yeah, fingers crossed for sure, dude. Fingers crossed. And actually, by the way, real quick before we move on from this, I will just say it, and feel free to chime in, Danny. I'll give you the last word. What does this suck for the fighters? What happens to pay-per-view points and the money that the champions were making? Like, they didn't get to negotiate any of this stuff. There's no more pay-per-view. I imagine that means there's no more pay-per-view points. How do you feel about this if you're a fighter?
This is terrible news if you're a fighter, because the alternative to fighter pay criticism, what Dana White would offer, well, look at Conor McGregor, look at look at these guys that are at the top making all this money, right? That changes. Like the UFC pay-per-view, like for the top guys, it was a big thing. And now that is not present, does Conor McGregor even want to return it? Like, what's his value, right? Like, if there's no pay-per-view points, like apart from getting a check, like he might as well be any other fighter, right? So yeah, this is gonna be very interesting. I wonder if this kind of disincentivize fighters into promoting themselves and really become stars, since pay-per-view points are really not going to be that lucrative, and sponsors is not what they used to be, because you can't take your sponsors into the cage. So I think the fighters got, I'm assuming, we don't know if there's maybe a back.
They got the short end here.
We're going to give you some sort of extra, but knowing the history of the UFC, I guess I'm pretty sure it was just an arbitrary decision. Pay-per-view points are gone, whether you like it or don't sign the contract, go somewhere else, but there's no somewhere else. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's even more of fighters having to accept that the UFC is giving them a platform to then go ahead and make their own money elsewhere. So it sucks for the fighters, man, but hey, it is what it is. All right. Pretty sure that was the longest segment we've done in ORT history. So let's move on now, but we had a lot to talk about there, but let's move on because there is a lot to talk about still. Chiefly among them, imminently coming up this weekend at UFC 319 in Chicago, we're going to get a main event middleweight title fight between DDP, Dricus Du Plessis, putting his title on the line, finally against Khamzat Chimaev, finally getting his title shot after 5 years. You remember how he burst onto the scene in 2020 during the COVID era. Now here we are 5 years later, Khamzat Chimaev getting his title shot. I have said on this show before, Danny, coming out of his last fight against Robert Whittaker, that Khamzat Chimaev's UFC title reign was inevitable. So it would only be befitting that I would hit you with this one now, Danny. Khamzat Chimaev losing to Dricus Du Plessis would be a huge disappointment.
Ooh.
We've waited 5 long years for this fight, man. And by this fight, I mean
it'll be
fighting for a title.
I agree, but I feel like a lot of things have taken place from that point to this point that have kind of chipped away, at least me personally speaking, at that confidence. Because I agree with you. At one point, I was saying that Khamzat Chimaev to become UFC champion was inevitable. It was bound to happen. It was a prophecy. It was happening. But then, if we look at the trajectory from 5 years ago, 5 years have passed by, right? That's been a long
It's
time.
been like this.
He
It has been like this.
quicker. He was
Yeah.
fighting every 2 weeks. Now all of a sudden he's not fighting as much. He's having health issues, visa issues, and obviously that got resolved with the current administration. But what happens if that administration goes away, right? So a lot of things, also certain fights, the Kamaru Usman fight, the Gilbert Burns fight took place. There's a lot of things that have happened in between that have chipped away at that confidence that Khamzat Chimaev is inevitably going to become UFC champion. Now, on the positive side for Khamzat Chimaev is he hasn't lost. He stayed unbeaten. And at the end of the day, the game's about winning, right? Doesn't matter how you do it, you get your hand raised. So he has checked off the boxes. So I'm actually going with the underdog. I can't believe he's the underdog. I'm picking.
I can't believe it either.
Okay. It's crazy because a few years ago I was extremely confident that Khamzat Chimaev was going to be champion, but I just have an uneasy feeling about a lot of things that have transpired, and I'm not too confident that the issues that I've seen in the past have been fixed ahead of UFC 319. Although he's taken the right precautions by training with Sam Calvita, is it?
He's been here. He's been here in LA. He's been in SoCal for a while now. So hey, listen. Okay, let me spin this a little bit forward here, or let's get a reaction to what some people maybe would consider an overreaction, and that was, if you saw, Danny, Dean Thomas recently said that it would be a disaster for the UFC if Khamzat Chimaev became UFC middleweight champion. A lot of that just based on his history. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And I've been having this debate internally, and we had this debate also.
Is it good? Is it good or bad for the UFC if he becomes champion?
I think in some ways is good. Promotionally, there's probably not a better, or it's hard to find a better figure to promote than Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, he's got the evil look, the beard. He's tough.
He's the boogeyman.
He says all the right things. He's an international star. He's not only beloved in the Muslim countries and that part of the world where he's from, but in the States, like, people love him as well. And he's a badass fighter. But again, there's a lot of baggage tied to him. Let's not forget his ties with Chechen dictator Kadyrov, and let's not forget also all the health issues that he's had. Troubles getting in the country again. I mean, for you to have issues to get in the US, that's pretty,
Yeah.
He just comes with a lot of baggage that DDP doesn't come. So I've been having this internal discussion of who's actually sort of the better result for the UFC. DDP is all reliable. The guy's going to show up. The guy's going to talk shit. The guy's going to give you an awesome fight. Sure, his stats are not off the chart like Khamzat Chimaev, but again, he'll show up and he'll get the job done, and you can trust in him in making weight and staying healthy. And those are things that I cannot say for Khamzat Chimaev. So certainly a fun champion to have in Khamzat Chimaev, but a problematic one as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Dean Thomas as well. And I'll say this: Dricus Du Plessis, he's the more marketable champion. He is the more marketable champion.
I completely disagree.
No, he's the more marketable champion, bro. You listen to DDP's interviews?
The split lip, the beer. I'm gonna smash you, brother.
Nah, bro, but he's not around all the time. He's not in front of the cameras enough. He's not fighting enough, dude. DDP is the guy. He's more marketable. He's more active. He's charismatic. He does good interviews. He's a great shit talker, dude. He's active on social media. He's better for the UFC. I think it's better for the UFC. It doesn't feel that way right now because I know we've waited 5 years for Chimaev to fight for this title, but it's probably better for the UFC, I think. So maybe it's not a huge disappointment. Shit, did I just talk myself out of my own overreaction? Maybe it's not. Maybe I just did it again. I don't know, dude. I'm just telling you, like, DDP, I think it's better. I think it's going to be good.
He's a safer option, but marketability, I do think there's more hype around.
That's the case, and he's got to be more active. And Chimaev's going to have to be more active. Something's going to have to change because we can't be fighting once a year, or we can't have I don't want another. My comparison would be another freaking Islam Makhachev comparison. Dude fights twice a year, and that's it.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, Khabib was worse, but yeah,
Khabib was worse. Yeah, like these guys, like I get it. I understand like the aura and the aura that comes with these fighters from that part of the world and the wrestling, the ground and pound, the boogeyman whole thing. But like, we need more activity, dude. We need more action. And I will just say one thing before we move on. Just want to give some credit. If this happens, if it happens, if DDP wins, where you start talking about DDP as an all-time middleweight champion after beating former champion Robert Whittaker, after beating Sean Strickland, a former champion, after beating Israel Adesanya, former champion, then you beat the boogeyman of the division, the boogeyman of the UFC. We're going to start talking about DDP in a much different light if he wins this fight on Saturday.
most
which
definitely.
I don't know what my pick is. I'm still undecided. We'll see.
Okay.
You have to wait to find out. Don't ask me. I don't know what my pick will be, but I'm gonna think about it for the next few days before we submit. So, anyways, all right, dude. Let's move on from that. Let's get into some stuff that I wasn't able to talk about because, like I said, your boy was in Hawaii, relaxing on the beach for the last for a couple weeks. Let's talk about another fight that got made while I was off, and that's the Alex Pereira Magomed Ankalaev rematch. It's going down on October 4th at UFC 320. So we're just a couple weeks away. I was thinking about what I've thought about Pereira's career in the past, and now we're getting this rematch and how it's kind of sitting with me. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit you with this right here now, Danny. Alex Pereira, he should have moved to heavyweight instead of rematching Magomed Ankalaev.
No. After watching the way he lost against Ankalaev, you just got to imagine what Tom Aspinall can do to him. His aura got cracked against Ankalaev. I mean, it just got shattered. This guy, I mean, you couldn't say a sentence in any show without having the word Pereira in there or Shama. Nowadays, he's kind of an afterthought. I didn't even think when I was hopping on this show today, I didn't even think he was going to be a topic. I knew right off the bat, CVS. UFC 319. Pereira, not really in the cards, at least I thought.
You think it's gone? You think the aura is done?
It would have been interesting. Certainly, people would have cared. But man, after watching him lose to Ankalaev, I think we can see that a lot of the top heavyweights will really handle him with ease. So no, I think 205 was fine in staying, and I actually think we're seeing the end of him. I think the decline has started.
The nail in the coffin is coming up for Chama.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I mean, he's been on borrowed time. He's been fighting at the elite and having success deep into his late 30s. And we see Adesanya how much he's fallen off. He's actually younger. I think Pereira's time is over.
Okay.
I hit you with a reverse Uno. There's an overreaction.
Okay.
Look, I even look like you today, so I might switch the screens and I can take the show over from now on.
Listen, let me ask you a question. Then I think I know what the answer is going to be. All right, but another one of the fights that got booked. Are you over the time that I was off was the fact that UFC 320 in Abu Dhabi we're going to get Aspinall against Cyril Gane. Are you excited by that fight? Is there not a part of you that would rather have seen Alex Pereira jump right into a heavyweight title shot against Tom Aspinall? That's intriguing, right? I mean, whatever you just said now, but that's intriguing. It's certainly more intriguing.
There's more
Aspinall and Gane, isn't it?
Yeah, there's more name value. Again, Gane is I don't really understood why they went with him. I thought he looked horrible against Volkov, but I guess he's one of the more marketable guys at heavyweight, and heavyweight is shit. Let's be honest.
Another reason for Pereira to jump.
Yeah, but against Aspinall, I don't know. I certainly think Gane might have a better shot than Pereira and beating Aspinall. More competitive fight, I think.
All right. Well, listen, you weren't impressed against Volkov. The fight against John Jones was a massive disappointment. I don't know what we're gonna get from Cyril Gane against Tom Aspinall. I would firmly take Tom Aspinall there. I think most people would firmly take Tom Aspinall over Alex Pereira, but I would certainly be intrigued by that matchup more than the one we're going to get. Two pretty good fights. I just wish, I think Pereira should have moved up, dude. That was the move. I want to see, and I would like to see, I would be intrigued by the fact that whether or not he could, attain a third title. No one's done it in the UFC, right?
That's true. Yep.
That would have been interesting to see. So, but anyway, all right. It is what it is. Man, do you really think the nail in the coffin in Chama's coming up in a couple weeks, huh?
I do. I think
That pains me,
Ankalaev got
dude.
his number, and he didn't look that great. And he's like, I didn't feel great. And that's what happens when you get old. The will is there to perform, but your body just is a second too slow. And I think that's what's happening here. Again, he's been on borrowed time. It's a miracle the career that he had. I don't think nobody expected him to. I think he's overachieved
All right.
in his time in MMA.
I still think he's got something. Hopefully, he proves us wrong in a couple of weeks. We'll see. All right, dude. Let's move on to something else now. And this is something that I was like a light bulb moment. I can't take credit for this. All credit to DC, Daniel Cormier, last week on an episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy, threw out the suggestion that the UFC should close out this year with an all-female pay-per-view card that would be headlined by Kayla Harrison against Amanda Nunes for the Bantamweight Championship, and then also the super fight that we want to see between Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili. Dude, I thought about that. And I'm just going to piggyback off of it, dude, and say, actually, Danny, that now is the perfect time for the UFC to book an all-female pay-per-view event.
Yes, but that's coming from my perspective. I think the MMA fan base, a lot of it is very misogynistic. A lot of it still just sees women MMA as a downgrade from men's MMA. And I've heard of these comments from people at bars and stuff like that. So I don't know how attractive would it be to, you're closing out your pay-per-view series for your final pay-per-view to be an all-women's card. Again, take my money. I paid money for UFC 301. Okay, I'll just say that. So yeah, I mean, I'd be more than willing to pay for those two super fights. If you can charge more and I'll pay for it, I'm in. But I'm a hardcore, and I don't think everyone is in our position. I feel like a lot of people would just see a card like that and pass it over. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. But why not? I mean, I actually like it. Speaking for personal preference, fuck it, do it. I think there's enough there to make an appealing card, and I love gimmicks. I love when a pay-per-view is all heavyweights, or we've gotten that in the past, or there's a certain theme with cards. I would love an all women's card. So I'm in personally, but I don't know how much. Yeah,
What if now let's just talk about this, because we talked about the end of the ESPN era. What if you were to do this in the beginning of the Paramount era, where you don't have to sell anything? You can just make a gimmick card. So let's just say we open up sometime in January with an event that is exactly what DC suggested. That would be the way to resolve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's a way, and this is like, it's great. As far as women's fights right now, it doesn't get any better than those two fights, right? I mean, those are huge, massive fights. There's plenty of female talent to throw, at least on a pay-per-view main card.
Oh, 100%.
You could do 10 fights, I guess, right? You could do 10 fights. I'd be all in for that too. But at the very least, you could get, some really big names to book a compelling main card. That's at the very least what we should get.
You can put together, you can find 10 really good fights in women's MMA right now. You can definitely put on a badass card just strictly using the female talent. And just the pay-per-view alone, yeah, 100%. I mean, I can picture so many matchups already, but yeah, those two fights alone, main and co-main event, I was gonna say Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes and Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko. If that does happen, that would easily be the biggest night in the history of women's MMA.
Yeah, it would. I love that. I salivate at the idea of that, and those fights are compelling. But yeah, let's put a spotlight on these great female fighters. We'll see if the UFC does it. Hey, DC is in. He's in with he's in. He's a UFC employee. If he's throwing it out there, maybe he's having some conversations. DC, keep selling it. Keep selling it to the brass, my man.
Maybe a BMF women's belt there too. Maybe
here we go. Okay, I don't know if we need that happening, but I got you there. I got you. All right, dude. Let's close out with talking about one more thing, and that is the fact that we are upon us now is the 9th season of Dana White's Contender Series. Show's been going on since 2017, which is wild. Man, time flies. Really feels like Dana White's Contender Series hasn't been around that long, but we're close to a decade of Dana White's Contender Series. The 9th season. The show has sort of changed a little bit over the years in terms of, the amount of fighters that are getting UFC contracts through Dana White's Contender Series. And so it's just the right time for me to hit you with my Dana White's Contender Series overreaction, Danny. And that is that Dana White's Contender Series is actually not good for MMA.
I agree. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I don't think that's a part of why. Basically, the UFC has been replacing regional promotions, right, by Dana White Contender Series and their own product themselves. Like a lot of these fight nights that we see at the Apex are LFA level, and that's not to disrespect LFA. That's just the level of MMA.
What we're getting.
Yeah, that's just what they are. Maybe with a fight here and there that it's relevant with ranked contenders and stuff, but overall, yeah, it's regional MMA. And yeah, it's stealing a lot from what used to be Bellator, what used to be all these other promotions, right? Or what is now PFL and these sort of mid-tier promotions that you would go out of your way to watch these guys that are a little bit unproven, but that got potential, and you want to see kind of what they got. It's stealing a lot from them, and it's also stealing a lot for the fighters because all of a sudden you go 5-0, 6-0, you're in Dana White Contender Series. And then you're thrown into the UFC and you're fighting UFC caliber level and you're just not ready.
Too quick.
Some are, but you're just not ready. But yeah, all in all, I do think Dana White Contender Series, not that great for MMA in general.
Yeah, not that great for the fighters either. I mean, you're automatically locked into like a 10-10 deal or whatever, for 5 fights or 6 fights or whatever the length of that contract is. And if you're a fan of quality MMA, Dana White's Contender Series has got to be one of the foremost reasons why the UFC products has been watered down, right? 100%. It's got to be. I mean, they're just signing a lot of cheap labor and then pumping them into these cards at the Apex on a weekly basis every Saturday. That's how we end up with those cards, right? That are a main event and whatever's below it. And, even sometimes we can't believe the main event is actually the main event, right? So, like, if you're a fan of quality MMA, you can't be that much of a fan of Dana White's Contender Series. Sure, there's some like exciting moments, on Tuesday nights. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure like in the short term, it's great to have, for the hardcores to have that on a Tuesday night for 10 weeks straight or whatever it is. You get some compelling, finishes, some exciting fights, some, the spirit of the show is go fight your ass off so you can, get so you can earn a UFC contract. Problem is, they're giving out like 5 contracts every week now, so that sort of spirit went away. I don't know.
It's just cost effective. Yeah, it's just cost effective for the promotion. That's it. And I would take it a step further. And not only has it been bad for MMA, but even for the own UFC. I know that reality TV in general has dropped down, but I don't know. Ever since the Contender Series, Tough lost a lot. Like, I just want, I feel like
I have not watched a single episode this season.
Yeah, since 2017. Yeah,
I haven't watched a single episode of Tough in forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you introduce Dana White's Contender Series, we all start asking, well, what's the point of Tough?
I mean, why would you wait weeks to see a guy get a UFC contract when you can just flip on ESPN Plus on a Tuesday and watch 6-7 guys get a contract?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense
on a weekly basis.
Doesn't make any sense, but hey, everybody, enjoy the fights on Tuesday nights for the next 10 weeks. All right, Danny, well, the time for overreacting has come to an end. Thank you, my friend, for being on the show.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure having you, dude. And always a pleasure having you guys tune in. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until the next time, we will see you on ORT. Dana, take us away.
MMA Junkie AI.